I'm Tracy Sable. Tonight on EWTN News Nightly, eye on the FBI. New developments in the possible targeting of the faithful by a federal agency. Overwhelming danger. An update on the deadly wildfires in Hawaii. Rebuilding effort. How Catholic groups are helping following the deadly earthquake earlier this year in Turkey and Syria. And we are one body. A closer look at the 30th anniversary of a song based on words from St. John Paul II. These stories and more tonight.
From EWTN, the Global Catholic Network, this is EWTN News Nightly.
Thank you for being with us on the Feast of St. Lawrence. Our top story tonight, Republicans claim the director of the FBI may have lied under oath about the Bureau's January memo against so-called radical traditional Catholics. New evidence shows the investigation did not originate solely in Richmond, Virginia's field office, as FBI Director Christopher Wray claimed. Capitol Hill correspondent Eric Rosales has more on why lawmakers say the FBI effort was more expansive.
Good evening. Back on July 12th, FBI Director Christopher Wray told the House Judiciary Committee that he disagreed with the Bureau targeting Catholics, and he also said it was wrong for the Virginia field office to issue the memo.
The Richmond product, which was a single product by a single field office, which as soon as I found out about it, I was aghast and ordered it withdrawn and removed from FBI systems.
The FBI director went on to further deny that the Bureau was targeting Catholics as a terrorist organization.
We do not recruit, open, or operate confidential human sources to infiltrate, target, report.
But that's not what this said. It sounds like you were trying to do it in Richmond, Virginia.
No, sir. No, sir.
You weren't? This didn't happen? You can assure us that this didn't happen?
That product did not, to as best as we can tell, result in any investigative action as a result of it. None.
But now Judiciary Committee Chair Congressman Jim Jordan and Mike Johnson say they have evidence that the FBI, quote, relied on information from around the country, from FBI offices in Portland, Oregon and Los Angeles, California, to develop its assessment that some traditionalist Catholics could potentially be domestic terrorists. This new evidence contradicts FBI Director Wray's testimony. Both lawmakers have now written Wray, stating, quote, the FBI's use of its law enforcement capabilities to intrude on Americans' First Amendment rights is more widespread than initially suspected and reveals inconsistencies with your previous testimony before the committee. The FBI released a statement disputing the Republicans' assertions. Quote, Director Wray's testimony on this matter has been accurate and consistent. While the document refers to information from other field office investigations of racially or ethnically motivated violent extremist subjects, that does not change the fact the product was produced by a single office. Congressman Jordan has given the FBI director till August 23rd to comply with his request for more information about the report. Any further hearing on this won't happen until at least September, when Congress returns back to Capitol Hill. From the Capitol, Eric Rosales, EWTN News Nightly.
On more than $20 million from foreign nationals. That is the new amount. House Oversight Committee members say that they have uncovered from the Treasury Department bank records connected to Biden family business dealings. House Oversight Committee Chair Congressman James Comer released a statement saying during Joe Biden's vice presidency, Hunter Biden sold him as the brand to reap millions from oligarchs in Kazakhstan, Russia, and Ukraine. It appears no real services were provided other than access to the Biden network, including Joe Biden himself. When lawmakers return to Capitol Hill, Congressman Comer and Oversight Committee members plan to subpoena the Bidens to testify. Comer says evidence contradicts Joe Biden's claims that he was never involved in his son's business dealings. Democrats say Republicans continue to twist and mischaracterize the evidence. In Maine, pro-lifers say they will not try to strike down the state's new pro-abortion law through a referendum. Instead, they will focus on electing candidates who are opposed to abortion. The new measure signed last month allows abortion at any time if deemed necessary by a doctor. At least 36 people are dead following wildfires in Hawaii. Winds from a passing hurricane have resulted in the deadliest blaze in the U.S. in years. Firefighters have continued battling the fire as search and rescue operations are underway. Local officials are preparing to evacuate thousands of residents and visitors in need of shelter. President Joe Biden visiting Salt Lake City, Utah today, saying that he and the First Lady send their deepest condolences to the families who've lost loved ones in the Hawaii wildfires, adding that they are grateful to the first responders putting themselves in harm's way to save lives. White House correspondent Owen Jensen reports. Owen?
Tracy, President Biden also says he and the First Lady are praying for those who've lost their homes and businesses. Now today, as you mentioned, the president in Utah discussing the PACT Act, which helps veterans who were exposed to toxic substances, including burn pits on military bases.
While delivering remarks in Salt Lake City at a Veterans Affairs hospital, President Joe Biden first reflects on the devastation in Maui.
Our prayers with the people of Hawaii, but not just our prayers. Every asset we have will be available to them.
Thousands of Hawaii residents racing to escape homes, the deadly fire taking the island by surprise.
We're working as quickly as possible to fight these fires and evacuate residents and tourists.
On the final day of his trip out west after visiting Arizona and New Mexico, in Utah, President Biden commemorating the first anniversary of the PACT Act.
PACT Act is one of the most significant laws ever signed to help veterans exposed to toxic materials and help their families recover, as well as receive compensation.
The president is also responding to new economic numbers that show inflation is on the way up again. Consumer prices jumped 3.2% compared to last year. President Biden writing, today's report shows that our economy remains strong. Annual inflation has fallen by around 2/3 since last summer. But Republicans look beyond last summer, tweeting, inflation continues to rage in Joe Biden's America. Prices are now up 16.9% since Biden took office. Meanwhile, the FBI shoots and kills a man accused of making threats against the president. Craig Robertson's neighborhood in Utah became a crime scene after agents confronted him. The suspect was also accused of posting threats against New York District Attorney Alvin Bragg.
Also tonight, President Biden is asking Congress for $13 billion in emergency aid for Ukraine. Another massive infusion of cash as that brutal war drags on. And tonight, President Biden returns here to Washington, D.C. from his trip out west. And that's all for now. At the White House, Owen Jensen, EWTN News Nightly.
All right, thank you, Owen. Well, presidential candidate in Ecuador who campaigned on fighting corruption was shot and killed following a rally last night. The 59-year-old conservative and father of 5 was known for speaking out against the drug cartels. President Guillermo Lasso suggested organized crime was behind the killing, adding whomever is responsible will be held accountable. Police in Hong Kong have arrested 10 people on suspicion of endangering national security. The move is the escalation of a crackdown against dissidents in the former British territory. Authorities said the arrest came because the people were suspected to have worked with a humanitarian relief fund. Last year, former trustees of the fund, including Cardinal Joseph Zen, were arrested. Our Catholic aid groups are among those continuing to work in Turkey and Syria following the earthquake earlier this year that killed 50,000 people. The 7.8 magnitude quake also displaced more than 3 million people. Caritas Confederation has assisted several thousand people, many of whom are children, with food, shelter, and other necessities. Joining us now from Turkey is Samir Al-Omari, meal officer at Caritas Turkey. Samir, thank you so much for your time today. Remind us again about just how devastating the earthquakes were back in February. What did you see when you arrived in Turkey after the quakes?
So actually, I have to correct you. I was in Turkey in January. I arrived in January, so I lived on myself the earthquake. On the 6th of February, I was in my house in Gaziantep, which is one of the most affected areas. And I have to say that it was quite scary for 2 main reasons. First of all, obviously, because I was new in the city. I didn't know anybody, but mostly important because it was a shake of 7.8 magnitude, which lasted for more than 1.5 minutes. And obviously, during this 1.5 minutes, you can feel and you can realize what's going on. The next day, I had the opportunity to go around, and everything outside the city of Gaziantep was completely destroyed. Basically, if you take the city, you can drive for 5-6 hours, and you can see only damaged buildings. you have to consider that the surface of the hidden area is like the same of Germany, and that the people affected are 9.1 million, and there are still 3 million of internally displaced persons. So you can imagine how hard this earthquake hit Turkey.
Yeah, it really is kind of unbelievable. Samir, what's daily life like in Turkey right now, you know, about 6 months after that deadly earthquake? How is the country recovering?
So basically, we have to consider that the country, like in, for example, currently I'm staying in Istanbul, which the situation is pretty calm. People are working and really doing their daily life. But if you go in the south, in the heat area, it's the daily life is completely different. Basically, there's, as I say, there's 3 million of people living in camps. Some of them have the luck to live in containers, but there's still many living in tents. And this means having like common wash facilities, so common latrines, common toilets, common showers. And there's a lot of people in camps who don't have the opportunity to access to education. And so there's still a huge lack of basic needs. And it's a situation that's going on from like 6 months. And I'm pretty sure, and unfortunately, that will last for a long time.
How is Caritas helping in this situation?
Yeah, so basically Caritas is trying to, first of all, the aim of Caritas is to assist the most vulnerable ones. So we are working with Turkish, but with Syrians and Afghans as well. So we are in the most vulnerable communities, and we are trying to fulfill these basic needs by providing them food kits, hygiene kits, and vouchers as well, clothes. And now we will also establish like a container camp, a small container camp for an Afghani community, and a laundry service as well.
And Samir, before I let you go, is there anything else that you would like our viewers to know about, you know, what's happening in Turkey right now, and maybe how they can help?
Yeah, basically as in every crisis, it's important to keep talking about it. Because the needs, as I said, like are huge, and like the Turkish government estimated that the damage is of around $100 billion. And so obviously, please keep donating, and also keep talking about this crisis.
Now, Samir, thank you so much for speaking with us today. We appreciate it, and for all that you do. God bless you.
Thank you. Thank you.
And we have a lot more still to come here on EWTN News Nightly, including All the Right Notes, a special anniversary for a song first performed in front of Pope St. John Paul II, and gender madness. We talked to the author of a new book on the dangers of so-called transgender ideology. Study published in the journal Jama Surgery looks at the, quote, long-term regret and satisfaction with decision following gender-affirming mastectomy. Researchers surveyed people who underwent so-called top surgery to see how they felt 2 years after their surgery, and found the median decisional regret score was 0 on a 100-point scale, and the median satisfaction score was 5 on a 5-point scale. The majority of the people surveyed for the study were between the ages of 26 and 27 when they underwent mastectomies. Joining us now to break down this study and more is Oli London, spokesperson for the Fairness First PAC and author of the soon-to-be-released book, Gender Madness. Oli, so great to be with you today. Let's talk a little bit more about the study that just came out yesterday. There were 139 people who responded to the study survey out of initial 235 patients who were eligible to take part in this. So not really a huge study, but certainly not minuscule. That said, do you think the results are reflective of what you're seeing when it comes to so-called gender-affirming care?
Well, we can't look at the results of this and try to get guidance or advice from it because it's only 139 participants. So that doesn't really tell us anything. And also the fact that the majority of these people went under double mastectomy after the age of 26, that normally indicates that these adults were already very sure and clear of themselves if they waited their whole life to do these surgeries. So, you know, if it was 18 or 19-year-olds, I think we'd see a large number of regrets and, you know, detransitioners. But because these adults were over the age of 26, I think they were dead set and sure on their ways, you know, and this study even got community noted on Twitter. CNN was trying to claim that this is evidence that gender-affirming care is a great thing for all people and adults when, you know, I don't think we should trust a study that has such a small number of participants, especially given the fact that they were all adults over the age of 26.
Yeah, and according to the research paper abstract, sounding a little clinical here, the study was deemed to be important because there has been, quote, increasing legislative interest in regulating gender-affirming surgery due in part to decisional regret. That's what they call it. Oli, let's talk more about this. I mean, I know this is something that you really have been on top of at the state and federal level here in the United States, but most of these discussions, if not all, they focus on children. And the participants, again, in this study, they were adults.
Right. So, you know, if we look at the results in Sweden, Sweden previously was the pioneer in gender-affirming care for children. They were prescribing puberty blockers and hormones. But earlier this year, Sweden actually reversed their decision and said, you know what, we've got some long-term data. This isn't actually beneficial or good for kids. So they've actually now changed their policy. Similarly, in the UK, they have now banned puberty blockers for the under 16. So, you know, we have to look at Europe. They were kind of pioneering these surgeries and procedures prior to America. And we've seen this explosion in America really in the last few years of, you know, pediatric clinics popping up everywhere. So we have to look at Europe, which has slightly longer term data. They are now saying that it's actually harmful, it's not beneficial, and it can, you know, impede a child's development and cause them to have physical and mental struggles as they become an adult. So we need to look at that because, you know, in America, we've seen the boom in transitioning kids in the last 5 years, but there's no real long-term data on the benefits or the negative effects of doing this to kids.
Yeah, and meantime, the American Academy of Pediatrics, it announced that it's doing a review of so-called gender-affirming care for children who have gender dysphoria, you know, things, as you mentioned, as cross-sex hormones, puberty blockers, and even double mastectomies. That said, last week, the AAP voted to reaffirm its past policy on gender-affirming care, which calls for those exact types of treatments. Oli, help us sort this out. I mean, I'm not a doctor, but one would think you do the review first. Here. Help us figure out what's at play at this.
Yeah, it just doesn't make sense. Why would you reaffirm a policy and say that everything is fine and you're happy with it without doing a review? And now they're doing the review after that. So it really doesn't make sense. But we have to know that, you know, the American Pediatric Association is about making profits. So if they can transition thousands of kids, they are benefiting from that. So regardless of them doing a review or not, I think the results are going to be skewed in their favor because they want to continue doing this as it is generating billions of dollars every single year.
Oli, we're almost out of time, but I want to make sure I get to this. I mean, I know you have been so busy lately speaking out against transgenderism and the effects of gender ideology on children. And you also have a new book that is coming out. Tell us more about that.
So yes, I've got Gender Madness. It's out in 4 days. It's available for pre-order now. And this book is really helping parents and helping young people that are struggling. You know, it's going through what is going on right now with this social contagion, with social media influencing kids, with the school system pushing this on kids, the entertainment industry. So it's going through all of that and how we can help as a society have this conversation, you know, because it should not be controversial to say children cannot consent to having irreversible surgeries or hormones. It shouldn't be debatable. You know, we should be clear-cut with this, that kids cannot consent, but unfortunately that's not the case. So my book is really exposing all of this, what we can do as a society, and I think raising awareness and having education about the facts of how this is being pushed is incredibly important. So Gender Madness, I hope, helps a lot of people dealing with this issue. Absolutely. Where can people find it? So it's right now it's available for pre-order on Amazon, Barnes & Nobles and Walmart, and available in all stores from the 15th. All right, well, check it out, Oli. Thank you so much, and congratulations on the book. God bless you. Thank you. God bless you. Up next on EWTN News Nightly, We Are One Body. A popular Catholic song celebrates a major anniversary.
the 30-year anniversary of a song whose lyrics were inspired by St. John Paul II.
We are one body in Christ.
Dana Scallon first performed We Are One Body at World Youth Day back in 1993 in Denver, Colorado. She did so in front of tens of thousands of people, including Pope John Paul II himself. The song continues to be a part of masses and other celebrations. And here to talk about the lasting impact of that song is Dana Scallon. Dana, great to be with you today. We really appreciate it. As you look back 30 years ago, would you have ever imagined the impact this song has had on the church globally and you personally?
Well, no, I wouldn't. It wasn't actually written specifically for World Youth Day, but they chose it as their theme song, and it just connected that day in the stadium, in Mile High Stadium. It was just an incredible experience. It was like a massive outpouring of the Holy Spirit on us all. And I had been told I wouldn't meet the Holy Father, and yet when I finished singing, there was like a tap on my shoulder, and a priest said, "The Holy Father wants to meet you." And I couldn't hardly move. He led me up to the back of the platform area, and I got within a few feet of the Holy Father, and nothing would move. I mean, I was just streaming in tears, and he put his arms out, and he embraced me, and he kissed the top of my head, and he said, "Good, good." And when I composed myself, I was able to tell him that Mother Angelica and everyone at EWTN loved him.
Oh, and still do, and still do.
Yes.
What an incredible experience, Dana. I mean, even just hearing it from you, I'm feeling inspired. And I want to talk about that. I mean, what inspired the song in the first place, and how you went from writing it to performing it?
Yes, well, it's an interesting journey. We had not long come to live in Alabama. Mother Angelica had asked my husband, Damien, to work with her in building a retreat center and took after the pilgrims coming to the network. And I'd begun to do music series for the network. And I was invited to one of the northern states to sing at I guess a gathering for confirmation age boys and girls. There were about 4,000 or 5,000 of them in this stadium. And it was an interesting experience because when we'd finished, some of their teachers were upset that we were, the priest was portraying a harsh God because he talked about commandments being commandments and not suggestions. I spoke on protection of life. They didn't like that because I was Irish and I was speaking in America. And someone else spoke of the reality of evil in a former drug addict. They felt we were frightening the children. And I was flying back to Birmingham, Tracy, and I was saying my prayers, and I thought, oh my goodness, they're going to be asked to be soldiers for Christ in just a short time and lay down their lives for their faith. And yet we're obviously telling them half-truths. And wouldn't it be better we told them the whole truth? Because no one more than young people want to face the challenge that the truth brings, but assure them that if they even have to stand alone in their own home, and it applies to us as adults too. Yeah. Often we find you feel like you're the only one standing, but you're not, because look beyond where you are and there are millions standing for this truth. And so we are one body in Christ, and we do not stand alone. And I recorded it and first sang it on EWTN. And when the Holy Father was coming to America, we sent 3 songs, hoped to sing at one of the little gatherings at World Youth Day, never dreaming that they would actually choose it as the theme song, and never believing that I would actually not only meet the Holy Father, but that, I think I'm a second-class relic. I'm not sure because he embraced me. But through the years, Tracy, so many people have told me that they found their vocation in that moment when the Holy Father put his arms around me. They felt like he put his arms around them, our St. Peter, our successor to St. Peter. And it was, even yet, I still meet people who tell me I find my vocation, whether religious life, the priesthood, married life, single life, in a way that's, serving the church, reaching out to people. It was just an extraordinary moment that I will never forget.
Oh, Dana, thank you for sharing that with us. We are so grateful for you coming on, and wish we had more time. God bless you. Hope to get you back on the show.
Well, thank you. I'd love to talk to you about one, Light the Fire, a new movement that started here on the anniversary of World Youth Day in Ireland.
Okay, we will do that. Dana, thank you so much, and God bless you.
God bless you too.
And we thank you for watching tonight. Remember, you can follow us on social media, Facebook, Twitter, now known as X, and Instagram at EWTN News Nightly. I'm Tracy Sable. Good night, and God bless.